Okay, so nice to meet everyone. My name is Rui. I'm a product manager on the Power BI team. I focus primarily on pro developer features like Power BI projects, the TMDL, the PBIR, and more recently, agentic stuff like how can you be successful with Power BI and together with AI to improve your development workflows. And today, so the session is from clicks to intent. So this was a nice name that I collaborated with Copilot to come up with. But essentially is I just want to give you some examples, and it's going to be very demo oriented. And I hope that the demos work because I didn't have a lot of time to prep, and I'm going to do some live. It's going to be all live demos, and I hope they all run okay. But I will start with like 3 slides just to set the stage here. And again, the goal is to show you the power of AI together with Power BI for development, not for consumption. So we are not going to focus about how to really consume data or create reports with AI. Is more how can you improve your life as a Power BI developer. Although I do have a demo for the Power BI query MCP, the remote MCP that is also to create show you how you can use the Power BI MCP together with VS Code or with Claude to create some like dashboard or so doing some data analysis. And so the first slide, the first thing is, so the way I see it, like today, when we think about Power BI development, it's these 3, let's say, stages. So you have the traditional development, which is very UI-based development. We introduced the PBIP more than 2 years ago, where we brought finally a code format to the Power BI. So it's no longer those binary files. So you do have like everything is open in the PBIP. So you can edit things just with a code editor. You can edit things programmatically. So you could write scripts to edit, to make changes to your semantic model or your report. This is, of course, unblocked code development because you can have source control. And we also released some APIs that unblock it, like powerful CI/CD pipelines, so you can automate publishing. So this is how things were before AI. Then AI came along, and then it unblocked, let's say, 10x efficiency flows. So you could use AI to essentially, you know what you are doing. You are still doing the work, but you can use AI to assist you doing that work. So for example, you are setting descriptions or defining descriptions on all your measures. And instead of doing it, or maybe you type one of the descriptions and then you use AI to define the rest of the 100 descriptions. Or perhaps you ask AI to create some of the base measures for you, but you are still in control. And let's call this like the 10x efficiency flow, because you are still in control. You still guide AI to do something, or Copilot or Claude to do something for you, but you are in full control. And then there's this final perspective, which is like AI goal driven, where you are not necessarily in control, but you define a goal. You define like, hey, I want to create a semantic model on top of this lakehouse or on top of this data. These are the best practices I want you to follow. These are my like team guidelines that I want you to follow. And then you just let AI or an AI agent to do the end-to-end work for you. So the difference is that in here, you are not necessarily in control about what the AI agent will do. So you are in control about defining the goal, but it might try like 10 different approaches until it reaches that goal. And one of those approaches might not be the one, some approach that you would approve. But in the end, again, your focus, it's a lot more on the goal. And in here, there are a lot of techniques that you can use to be successful, like having a spec that and creating a spec that you can work and collaborate with AI on that spec. And in the end, you hand over the spec for the agent to implement. This is not going to ensure that determinism, because in the end, you need to understand that AI is a probabilistic model. So if you run it twice, it's very likely that you get slightly different results. But if you have a spec and if you have enough context, it will increase the at least it will. You can. I won't say make sure, you cannot be sure, but you can ensure the quality of the output will meet the goals that you define. And this is where things become a lot more interesting, because if this is 10x, this is like 100x. Because this is where you can, for example, every time you start a new Power BI development, you don't go like to Power BI desktop or tabular editor, you open it, you connect to the data source, you do the transformations, you do the relationships, you define the naming conventions as you like, and then you spend one day doing all of this. Guys, this was fun to do 10 years ago. It's not fun anymore. Okay, and this is the type of stuff that is not hard to do. And you can, and I can tell you, and I'll try to show you that you can literally have an AI agent doing all of this for you. This is the kicker. Doing it as if it was you. Okay? Because you can, if you put the right context, if you define the skills, if you put the work to maybe take some of the skills that I will share with you guys as an example and customize it and put the effort on that, you will see that you will ask AI to create a Power BI semantic model, and it's going to be very similar to the one that you would or your team would have created if it was your team creating it. And that's where you can really be a lot more efficient. Okay, give me just 1 second, because I'm home alone and someone is ringing me at my door. Okay, sorry. Okay, I'm back. And okay, so this is kind of going from this, let's say, clicky, draggy, droppy that was coined by Christian Way to something more like prompty, stewy, tweaky. That's the direction, because again, some of these things were, and I'm not saying that Power BI desktop or tabular editor or the UI is not valuable. It is, but it's much more valuable as like an intermediate stage, not necessarily like for those scaffolding tasks that take you a lot of time to do. So it's still valuable to like, hey, have an AI agent creating a semantic model and a report, and in the end, you can just open it in the tool and you can review it. And then maybe perhaps you go back to the agent and say, oh, this is not really what I want. I want this. I want something different. And you just see it happening as you interact with. And focusing on that last stage, the AI goal-driven development, this is what we call like agentic Power BI development. Again, if you look at the image, is you basically just define the goal. And you define the goal like, I want to create a semantic model on top of the lakehouse X. And you give that to an AI agent. The AI agent has available to him things like has understanding about the code formats, the PPIP, the TIMDL, the PVIR. It can work with those code formats. So it's definitely, it's not, you don't need to use the PVIP to interact with to interact with AI, because you have the MCP and the MCP can work with PBIX. But believe me, you will get a lot more benefit if you have it, if you are using the PVIP, because there are certain things that the MCP, for example, cannot edit, like the diagram layout or the verified answers or the Copilot tooling. And having that in the code format, everything you do in the tool gets saved into those into that PBIP folder. So that's also something important for you to know, because you can also do something in the tool and then just understand what was the change that the tool did to the file, and then ask AI to do the same thing, maybe, and avoiding doing the an operation that will need to go that will force you to go, let's say, through every single visual of the 100 visuals that you have on 50 pages of your report. So please don't do that. So if you have, if you are dealing with some type of task that is very repetitive, and you look at it and you say, hey, I need to do this with 100 pages of 100 reports, just stop and think that you have a code format. You can do that change once, you can learn what that change does to the code, and then you just replicate it, either writing a script or having AI doing it for you, or having AI writing a script that you can run later using semantic link labs, or just saving as a PBIP and running some Python or PowerShell code on top of that. And AI also have available to the agent, like tools and APIs. So you have MCP servers, the Power BI MCP server. You have APIs that AI can use to interact with Fabric, like to deploy or to get the definitions or the code of items. You have libraries, so AI can write code, C# code or Python code using the tabular object model. But more important than everything is this domain intelligence, okay? Is the skills, is the agents, is the team guidelines. This is where you are going to put your brain, your team methodology into some Markdown documents or some text documents if you don't like Markdown, and you are going to feed that to the AI agent. And the AI, of course, that you cannot overflow it, because there is a context window. You need to be careful with that, and that's why skills are really important, because they do that progressive disclosure. But it's really important. This is what changed the game, is when you can have these AI agents behave the way you expect to. And essentially, the AI agent does this, what it's called, like this loop so it starts with a goal, like create a semantic model, and then it starts this loop of observe, think, and act. Like the first thing is, okay, understand what to do, and then think like, okay, I need to have schema information, because the skill and that context is telling me that to create a semantic model, I need to have the context, and I'm going to, okay, now I need to act, and I need to get the schema of my lakehouse before I do anything. But because, again, not because of the implicit knowledge of the LLM, but because the skill, and I will show you that, the skill has a workflow that defines that to create a semantic model, the first thing you need to understand is the data source. So don't even go to the next step until you understand the data source. And this keeps going and going. These loops of observe, think, and act keep going and going until the user, the goal is achieved. Like the semantic model is created and is ready to be used. And this is my last slide. Guys, the future is this. So there is no way, there is no coming. We are not going back. And believe me, that this is like there was a podcast I heard like a couple of months ago, where he said a quote that it resonated quite well with me. Is this is like swimming. You will not learn how to swim by watching others swim or reading a book. You'll learn how to swim by getting in the pool, okay? By getting in the river or in the sea. Perhaps you start with a small pool, but you really need to, and I cannot encourage you enough to really try things. Maybe start simple, and I'm going to show you in the demos, perhaps some of the more simple demos, but once you start, you will, it's the best way for you to really understand that the impact that this can give you, the impact that can give to make you more efficient, and not only 10x, but why not even 100x. So this link over here, it takes you to a repo where I have some of the skills. So all the skills that I'm going to show in the demos, they are in here. So you can just install it and play with it. So this gives you like an example on how to get started, not only to do like small modifications, but also end-to-end creation. Okay. So now let's go to the demos. But before going there, is there any questions? Okay. Not sure if you guys are all muted, but I will assume that. So if I can see you, so if you have questions, just raise your hand. I will stop. Okay. Okay, and like I told you, this is going to be all live demos. I hope they run well. And let's start by, let's say that 10x efficiency flow. How can you be more efficient, even if it's just you are still in control? It's not, you are not going to just ask AI to create a semantic model for you and you just wait. But I'm going to show you some examples of how AI can help you to be more efficient. And the first thing I want to talk about is the PBIP, and the typical demo of the PBIP is just like going to desktop, save as a PBIP. And I'm going to show you another way to get to the PBIP file format that is not necessarily from desktop. So it's how can you get to the semantic model definition or the report definition, the code definition from an item that exists in the workspace. And one way is you can just enable Git integration and you go to the Git repo. Another way that does not require Git, it does not even require Fabric capacity, is using an awesome extension called Fabric extension. It's a VS Code extension. So install VS Code and you install this extension. So you go here, you search Fabric. That is another amazing extension from Gerard Bruckel, Fabric Studio. But we also have one in Microsoft. So both they actually Fabric Studio even have actually a lot more functionalities, but this one is more focused on like just exploring the definitions of the item. So if you install this extension, this allows you to, this gives you like a view of all the workspaces you have access to. I already pre-filtered the workspace to the workspace I want to work, so you can browse all the workspaces you have access in Fabric, and when you filter, wait a minute. Okay, Zoom it is working. So when you filter a workspace or when you expand a workspace, this gives you like a 3-view navigation to that workspace, everything that exists in it, like all the semantic models, all the reports, all the notebooks, everything. And if I go to the semantic model and I expand, what this is going to give me is the actual item definition of the semantic model, that the code definition of a semantic model is using Tyndall. So you get visibility to all the Tyndall definitions of my semantic model. And just this is very useful because this is a great way, or actually the easiest way for you to get to the code of any item in Fabric. Okay? It's you don't have an easier way than this. You could say, oh, you can download the PBIX, but then you need to open in desktop and save it as a PBIP. You can use the Git integration, but you need to integrate with Git and have a Git repo available. This you can just authenticate, navigate, and then you have the code definition of the entire semantic model. So let's say if you just want to check what's the I don't know, what's the code that you are using in a certain measure, it's as easy as this. You can just go with it. And if you, let's say, you want to copy this to another semantic model, just take the code and copy this and paste it as a file in another PBIP. And so just the fact that you can get visibility to the code, I think is quite useful. But another thing you can do is you can just edit. And when you click edit, now I can just start typing like a new measure in here. And this is like, I think this was GitHub Copilot, when it got launched, it only did this, and I still think it's quite useful, and and they keep evolving this quite a lot. So let's say I want to create a new measure, so I can just start typing measure, and then let's say the measure I want to create is the measure margin, and notice what's happening. So GitHub Copilot is doing an autocomplete, and it's doing a smart autocomplete because it's taking into the context, into the consideration, all the Tyndall code that exists in in the file I'm editing. And if you notice here, the reason why it's using a format string and the display folder and a lineage tag is because the other measures, they also have this, and it's just being consistent, which means that if, for example, if I drop the display folder, and I do again, now it's not going to generate the display folder. So this autocomplete is not like it's not the most smartest thing in the world, but if you have, it's just going to follow the consistency of your of the code that you already have, which I think is great. And honestly, I've been using this for the last, I don't know, years. And it's actually quite useful. Sometimes the autocomplete is not exactly what I want, but it does save me some time. So for example, I'm going to put margin percentage, and notice that it even generated the DAX of that percentage. But actually it's the correct one. But let's say it's not I don't want a percentage, I just want the margin, and see that now it generates the margin, but without doing the, actually it's still doing the percentage. Let's see it like this. And now it's just doing the sum of the profit. So this is actually a quite smart autocomplete. And when I make a change, and if I click save or I press Control Save, this is instantly saving this metadata, this code change that I did in Tyndall. Okay. I think it's I don't know what I did wrong. Let's see. I think I pushed on the luck here. Margin. Let's put the margin percentage. Okay. I don't know what happened, but let me try to refresh the metadata. Try again. Live demos, it's always like this. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's try one more time. And what, by the way, what is happening here is that the Fabric extension, what it's doing is basically just a wrapper. It takes advantage of all those Fabric APIs. So, and there are Fabric APIs that let you not only get the definition, so get the Tyndall code of the semantic model, but you also have another API that lets you update the definition. So take the Tyndall code and update it. And this is what this VS Code extension is using behind the scenes. It's taking advantage of those APIs. So now, if I go to the semantic model, that new measure I created, it will be available in my web modeling. So it should be in here, the total profit. And another example of how you can leverage AI is, let's say I have a role, and my role is for the US, and I can use now like GitHub Copilot edit mode, and I can say, hey, create new roles for each country in Europe. And I can just say this, nothing else. And why? Because I already have a role in my Tyndall file. Okay, I already have a role, so I already have an example on how to filter for the country USA, and I can just say, hey, do the same thing, but now for all the countries in Europe. And again, just follow the convention that already exists. This is not, perhaps it's something that I did, something wrong with the extension, but let me check if the update was successful. Because I know that there are some, especially when the Copilot can make the decision to actually save the file. Team both declare the same property. Role USA. Now, we see if this gets saved, if this got saved or not. Yeah, actually it got saved. There was something that it's probably a bug in the extension that is saving twice and it's causing this. But now I have the semantic model with all those roles, and I didn't went through the UI and created the roles manually. So I can just, again, look at the code, see what the code is doing, and just replicate that and just ask AI to, okay, can you generate the same code now for this new purpose that is one role for each country. And this is not even downloading. I'm not even downloading the code. I'm just like directly editing the code that exists in Fabric. Now, let me give you another example. Actually, I've been doing this demo, I think, for the last year or so, but it's one of my favorite demos to do because I know that this is the type of stuff that really can hurt if you need to do it manually. So I have a report, and this report is not like very well aligned, and it's not the guy that did this was not seeing straight, so the visuals are not aligned, and I need to align this, and I want to align this. But keep in mind that I'm doing this for one report, but in one report or on one page, it does not hurt. I could just come here and very easily or quickly just snap everything together and keep this consistent. But perhaps even if I do this, there will be some places where the alignment will not be perfect. So what you can do instead is you have the report. So again, you go back to VS Code, and the report is over here. But right now, but this time, I'm not going to make the edits. I could do the same thing. So in the extension, I also have all my visual.json files, all my PBIR representation of the report right here, and I can just make the edits directly. But I'll do something different, which is I can right-click on the report and I can say download item definition. Which, by the way, this is a nice trick if you ever are in a situation where you cannot download the report, like because it was edited by XMLA or something else that stops you from downloading the report. With this, it will always work. So the download will always be available. And so let me download the report. I'm going to download it to the same folder. And what this is doing is going to download the PVIP representation of my report. And now I have all the files of the report in my file system, and I can just make edits directly to it. And the thing that I want to do is I want to align the visuals of my report. So every single visual.json, it has this position over here, and I can use this, and I can use AI to, hey, go ahead and make the and make my visuals aligned. So, and how do you do that? So you do that by using the Copilot chat. So there is this. You need to have GitHub Copilot installed in your VS Code. So you open the chat, and in here you're going to say, hey, you take the path of the report. Perhaps I don't need to do this because I only have one, but let's say I have more than one. So we take the path of the report. So you copy the relative path and you say, align the visuals in reports and you put the path to the reports. And you do this, and of course that if you do this alone without what you are seeing here is loading a skill, and I will explain the skill, it might work or it might not work. But if you have a skill, and a skill, so I have in my workspace, I have a skill called Power BI report, and in this skill there is some domain knowledge about what do I mean by aligning the visuals. So there is in here there is a section called Align Power BI Visuals, and the Align Power BI Visuals, again, I don't need to be specific. I just need to tell AI that, okay, first understand the PBIR layout, and there is some like folder representation of or explanation about how the PBIR file format looks like, and then I just explain how the AI agent should align the report visual. I'm going to say that for each page, you should inspect the visual.json files, you should read the position, you should build like a mental wireframe mapping out all the visuals, infer the layout grid, like divide things into rows and into columns, and then just apply a consistent alignment. Make sure that everything is aligned horizontally, everything is aligned vertically. And whenever you have like a row that the visuals are separated, you have a row with more than one visuals, make sure that everything has the same width and it's spaced also consistently. And then just update the position in the visual.json. Look, I'm not writing any code. I'm just basically explaining how I do my alignment. Perhaps you or your team, you could have a different rule. You could say that, hey, I want one visual per page. I always want that. And I want my slicer to be in this position. So you can express yourself and put that in that skill, whatever you like. And then another thing that is also interesting is you could even ask AI to generate a script to apply this on other reports for you, if you like. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to accept the change. And then you can go back to that extension, Microsoft Fabric, and there will be this local folder, because I have the report in my local folder, and I can just publish it back to the workspace. So I'm going to publish to the Agentic demo. I'm going to say that I want to overwrite. I didn't validate it, but it should be fine. Let me try to refresh now the page, and now my reports will hopefully be perfectly aligned. Again, you could probably do this quicker without AI and just doing it yourself. But think if you had to do this on 50 pages, I'm sure it would take you like a lot more time than doing this with Copilot or with Claude, or using using AI to do this. Okay, and so that's one. That's the one way to use AI and directly against the PBIP, file format. And you could do exactly the same thing by saving as a Power BI project from desktop. So I wanted to show this Fabric extension just for you guys to know about it. By the way, a quick show of hands. Who didn't know about the Fabric extension? Anyone? Okay, good. You made my day. Okay, so let's go now to another demo, and I want to talk about the MCP. Who knows about the Power BI modeling MCP? Okay, so the Power BI modeling MCP is an MCP, and an MCP stands for Model Context Protocol, and it's a protocol that teaches AI how to interact with a platform or with an engine or with a set of APIs. And that MCP, it can interact with Power BI Desktop directly. You can interact with the Power BI project, so you can just ask an AI agent to interact with it, to connect to the folder in the PBIP and make changes to it. But it can also interact with a Fabric workspace, with a semantic model that is published in Fabric. I'm going to do a demo with Power BI Desktop. So I have a PBIX. It's not even a PBIP, and it's using this. So it has a semantic model where, let's say, the naming convention. So I inherited this semantic model, and the naming convention is really, really bad. And I need to. So my task is to refactor the semantic model because to make it with not only with a good naming convention for a semantic model, like using business-friendly names, but also consistent. It's not just renaming, it's also making sure that it's consistent. So if the measures are named in the center with a certain pattern, it should always apply that pattern. And one way to use the MCP is you just put Power BI Desktop on one side. If I can, which is not working. The snipping. Okay, let me try like this. So you put Power BI Desktop in one window, and you put VS Code on another window. And again, I'm using VS Code and GitHub Copilot, but the same thing, you could use Claude and Claude Code or ChatGPT. No, but Codex will work, or Cursor or Anthropic. So any AI application that supports MCPs, where you can configure an MCP. In VS Code, it's really easy. You just go and actually, let me show you that. You just go to VS Code, you go to the extensions, and you search for Power BI Modeling MCP, and you install it. So, and after you install this, the MCP, it becomes available. So when you start that chat, when you click on the Copilot chat, the MCP will show up in here. So and the MCP basically gives a set of tools to interact with the semantic model in Power BI Desktop. Today, it's just for the semantic model. It does not know anything about the report. That's something that we want to change in the future. But right now, this MCP, it's a modeling MCP. That's why it's named Power BI Modeling MCP and not Power BI MCP. But you basically have a bunch of tools, like tools to interact with measures, tools to interact with columns. So and you can just ask anything you like in terms of semantic modeling development. So what I'm going to ask the MCP is I'm going to ask, analyze the naming. Actually, the first thing you need to do is you need to connect to Power BI Desktop. So you're going to say connect to Power BI Desktop. And the MCP is going to find the analysis services instance that is behind this Power BI Desktop. So it's going to find this instance of Power BI Desktop. And you do the connection. So now I'm connected to the MCP demo of this Power BI Desktop instance, and now I can just ask to do stuff. I can say analyze the naming convention of the semantic model and propose better and consistent names. And what this is going to do is going to use the MCP tools to learn about all the names of the tables, of the columns, of the measures, and is going to make an analysis and is going to propose some changes to make it to get into that consistency we are talking about. So as you can see, the agent it made that analysis in a couple of seconds, and now it's making me is thinking and making me the proposals for that rename. And just this is, I think, is cool. What is even cooler is I can just say, okay, apply the renames. And you can literally because the MCP behaves like an external tool. It's not different than you opening Tablet Editor as an external tool and making changes, and you can also see those changes. So in here is going to be the same thing. So when the MCP, while the MCP is applying those changes, I will be able to see in desktop those changes being applied. And let me see. Yeah, it's still thinking, but I will see those changes getting applied, and it will do that in a minute or so. So it will also confirm for every connection. It will do a confirmation with you just to let you know that it's about to do a change. That is a destructive change. So one thing that is really important is whatever you do have backups when you use AI. I think it's really critical. By the way, I missed something that I think it's really important on the previous demo, that if you do have, let's say, we made changes in VS Code using the Fabric extension directly against the items in Fabric. But if you do have a Git repo, you can connect the workspace to Git. And this means that everything you do, you can not only undo it, but you can also commit to a Git repo, and you can even review all the changes you did with AI before making that commitment. So this gives you an opportunity to have that version control and the version history, and understand everything that AI have done, and also giving you a nice way to just, hey, I don't care about any of this. Let me just roll back and go back to the previous version. So one thing that is a very important best practice whenever you, especially when you are dealing with AI, is do use PPIP and do use Git, if not with inside of the workspace, at least locally, because this is what will allow you to just roll back when things go wrong. So we'll accept this, and let's see. Okay. Yeah, and you can see just desktop working and getting the rename operations. And we have this bug that it just sometimes the window starts flicking, but it will just keep up. It will just apply all those renames in batch. And again, if you had to do this manually and in the UI, I'm absolutely sure that it would take you like a couple of hours. But not only that, I think it will be really hard, because we are humans, to keep that consistency. I think that where AI really shines is really yeah. No, I was seeing that the table names were not actually being applied. It makes sure that it applies that consistency, and then it's going to respect that consistency every single time. And I think that's really cool. Okay. How much time do I got?
10 more minutes.
10? Okay. Now let me do. I'll do for the final demo. I want to talk about something that is actually. Oh, let me just make one more in here, which is. Now I'm going to expand this just to give you a taste of that, like applying the changes, but following some of that context. So let's say I want to set descriptions. So it's a best practice to set descriptions on all the measures, right? So we have measures in here, and none of them have a description. It's a best practice to have the descriptions for two reasons. One, your self-service users that are exploring this model, they will see that description as a tooltip. It will help them understand what that measure does. But this is also important for if you use Copilot or if you use AI to consume these measures, because the AI can use the description to better understand if that measure is the right measure for a certain purpose. And when you define those descriptions, so it's something you also have this create with Copilot, but it's one by one. One thing you can do as well is use the MCP to do that. But not only do that like randomly or using the internal knowledge of the LLM, but you can have this like a markdown file where you, let's say you define your company terminology. You define that like what your company do, or what the company of the the company where you are working with. You put just context, like verbiage, like terminologies about how that company behave, and then you can just say, okay, go to a pilot, and we still have this connection, and we're going to say, okay, set descriptions on all measures, but follow the company terminology in this file. And what AI will do is, first, is going to get the measures, is going to use the MCP to set the measure descriptions, but it's also going to analyze this file, get this into the context, and write the description with all these, taking this into consideration. So it just did that, and you can see that the descriptions, they are going to follow that consistency. Like you see, like user select cost, user to analyze premium product performance. I don't know. I also vibe coded that that terminology, but the point that I want to make is you can make this AI generated text a lot more realistic and better fit the purpose if you also put the time to provide that context. So context is key on all these things. Okay, now one thing I want to talk about is coding agents, and I'm not sure if you can do this with Azure DevOps. I'm not familiar with that, but you can do this with GitHub. So in GitHub, you also have the ability inside of the GitHub repo to run a coding agent, and there are a couple of ways to do that. I highly recommend. There is a YouTube video and a repo from John Kursky. I'm going to paste it here in the chat, where he goes a lot more deep dive than me on this, and it's also actually using the GitHub agentic workflows, where you can even automate things like every time a developer does a PR or does a change to a semantic model, you have AI reviewing all that code and then even proposing changes. But I'm going to show you a more simple approach where you can get started. So first, you go to a GitHub repo, and the first thing you do is you configure the cloud agent. So you go to the settings, to the cloud agent, and you are going to configure the MCP in here. So just copy and paste this code, the MCP registration. This is on the MCP, the modeling MCP documentation. So a couple of months ago, we shipped an NPM package. So you don't need to put the binaries of the MCP in here. You can just reference NPX and you put the name of the NPX package, and that's it. So you register the MCP. And after you register the MCP, another thing, and by the way, this is also in my GitHub repo. Let me also share it so you can just take this as an example. So think of this repo as, let's say, my team, my Power BI team development repo. So in here, I will have a bunch of semantic models using the PVIP format. And another thing I will have in here is some skills. I'm going to put some skills, like skills for semantic model authoring. So I'm going to say things like, hey, whenever you create a semantic model, or whenever you modify a semantic model, this is the flow. You connect to the model, you understand the current state of the model, and then you apply the modeling guidelines. And the modeling guidelines is a reference file in that skill that define my team or my personal modeling guidelines, the things that I care about, like things like naming conventions. What's my naming convention? How do I like? Again, this is just an example. You should take this skill and customize it to fit your own rules. So the skill defines how I do semantic model authoring, and it has other things like, for example, the semantic model documentation. Whenever I create a semantic model, I want to have a markdown that will document that semantic model. And these are the instructions that you should follow, or everyone should follow, human or AI, to generate the documentation, like discover the semantic model, generate documentation for the relationships, for the measures, for the row-level security rules. And this is the output format. This is how it should look like. So you define those skills. And then you can, because you have the MCP and because you have the coding agent, you can just say, you can be on your phone. Let's say you started working on a semantic model, you committed the semantic model into here, so this sales semantic model, and but you didn't have time to work on the documentation, so it just left, you close the laptop, and you can go to your phone, and you can go to GitHub and open a new issue, and it just say, okay, create documentation for the sales semantic model. And you can put more details in here on what, like you could say, hey, use this as an inspiration. Here's some more information about what I want to be in the documentation, but let's keep things simple. You create the issue. And again, because I have the coding agent, now I can assign this task to an agent, and I'm going to assign that to my coding agent. I can provide some extra instructions to the agent. I'm not going to do anything. And what is going to happen now, you can even see this, the agent is looking at it, so Copilot is looking at it. So what is going to happen is that Copilot in the cloud asynchronously, so this is not running in my machine, this is running in the cloud, is going to start a pull request, and is going to start an agentic session, a synchronous agentic session using GitHub Copilot, and using the skills and using the MCP to perform that task. So I can see that the session is running. I can even open it and I can see what the agent is doing. Normally, this is not what you will do. So we'll just spawn the task and then just wait until you get a notification that, hey, here's a PR that you can review. But we can look at it now. So it's starting the MCP. So you can see that it's starting the MCP. Is going to load the skill. So activate the semantic model documentation skill. So skills, the AI agents, they don't load all the skills. They will load the skill if the thing that you are asking to somehow resonate to that skill. And how does it know that? It knows that because one of the most important thing of the skill, actually, I don't think is the most important thing. The most important thing is the content of the skill. But one thing that it's really important on the skill is what is this front matter that exists in the top, because this is what AI will always load, and this is what is going to say to the agent if it should use the skill or not. And in this case is okay, you should. This is a skill to generate professional documentation for each semantic model in the repo. And because you have that front matter, it knows, so AI knows that, okay, I should probably activate this skill to generate the documentation. So, and it's going to keep going. And you can see that it's using the MCP to fetch the metadata for the measures, for the security rules. And why is doing that? It's doing that because the skill tells him to do that. The skill, it tells that, okay, for you to generate documentation, row-level security is an important thing. And because of that, he's going to get the security, he's going to call the security role operations to get information about the RLS. And I know I'm getting out of time, but in the end, just to not wait for this, I already have something that I run previously. So in the end, what you will get a PR that you as a semantic model developer, you can review, and with that PR, you will get that documentation created for you. Let me just put this in view mode, and I can just generate a PDF of this, and not only that, this will keep this up to date. So every time there is a change, I don't need to manually update the documentation. I can just ask AI to do it for me. But the difference here is that I'm not even running this on my machine. I'm running this on the cloud and just spinning up these coding agents to do the work for me. And this is just an example, okay? So I'm showing you how to create documentation. You could use this to like review the naming convention of a semantic model. You could use this to create measures. You could use this, which is very interesting, to do like that scaffolding of a semantic model. So the next time your team has to do a semantic model, instead of opening Power BI desktop, you have enough skills and enough MCPs configured, and you can just attach an RFP, or you can attach like some guidelines of what's the type of the semantic model you want to create, what are the data sources, what are what's the type of what's the customer, some detail about the customer, and you get AI creating that scaffolding of the semantic model. So again, following the naming conventions that you agreed with the customer, the styling of the development of your team, and just with this, like, save a day or two of work. And then you just clone the repo, and you go and continue doing the most advanced measures, or some of the work yourself without using AI for that. So, but the point here is with the skills, together with these coding agents, you can just automate some of the works, especially the work that you don't have any pleasure doing, and just save an enormous amount of time. So I still had a few more demos, but I also need to pick up my kid for school. So, but I hope that you learned something new today, and hope to see you next time.
We have time for a couple of questions, really.
Yeah, I still have like 5 minutes.
Sometimes you have a little question.
No, I think it's out.
Amazing. Anyone else? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you for the demo. It was really insightful. Can you tell me how you set a team up that develops traditionally to move over to this agentic way of working? So how do you switch like a team to something like this?
I don't know, Flavio, if you can repeat, because I was hearing with some cut noise.
Yeah, so the question is, how would you gear your team to start working on this agentic way instead of the old way?
Yeah.
So first, they need to have some AI subscription. So GitHub Copilot, Claude Code, Codex, anti-gravity, whatever. So that's the first thing that the team should have this available to them. Okay. And yes, the GitHub Copilot, it has a free version, and it's good to get started, but to get to this level of things, like we already just have an agent going and end to end and doing a lot of reasoning, that's not going to work with the free versions or the free subscriptions. So that's the first thing. Then second, really just starting simple, like with things like, I don't know, like setting descriptions or generating base measures. And honestly, to me, that's the starting point. That's where you should start, and then keep evolving into more these scenarios, like end-to-end development, where you can just ask AI to create a model for you, or scaffolding a model. But on that, it's definitely for those things, it's definitely important to start creating or inheriting some of the existing skills and owning those skills, and iterating on those skills, because that's what's really going to make the difference and going to make this a lot more realistic and useful. It's really when you understand that it can you can automate the work as if it was you. But again, it will depend on the type of the development workflows you have. But I would say that just like giving access to the team to these AI agents and AI tools, either again, whatever the one that you would feel comfortable, or you will that will also fit with your licensing constraints, but and encouraging that, because it's what I can tell you is you can really get a lot of benefit in terms of productivity with this. It's not magic, okay? It's not going to make you do all the work for you, but it can improve like a lot the efficiency if you use it well.
Just one more quick question, Rui.
Yeah, I think really great presentation. It's quite amazing what you can do already. But I'm thinking in like sort of medium term. Do you see as Microsoft potentially embedding this in a even more user-friendly way, almost like a Teams chat, and then you kind of, I think, you know, for me, other than on technical, I think that's really kind of where this has to go, right? To kind of even more user-friendly, as if a chat.
Yeah, definitely. So we are working on some features. Actually, some of them will ship very, very soon. But at the same, there was one thing that was a learning point for us, that instead of focusing too much on the, let's say the ease of use, we want to focus more on the fundamentals, like having the skills and the MCPs and the tools that AI can use, and then build on top of that. And that's what we did. And that's why, for example, it took us a while to start embedding those, let's say, creator agentic experience within the tool. We are going to ship something very soon, but the plan is to bring all of that into the product. But at the same time, if you do want to use VS Code and GitHub Copilot or Cloud Code, you can also use it, and they will share the same set of skills. They will share the same set of tools. So the output will be similar, instead of just focusing on the self-service side. But I agree that what I just did today on this presentation, it is scary for I would say 95% of our user base, and it's not accessible. But it's also true that these days, there's also those users that were scared about coding, they are starting to become more and less scared about it, right? Because it's the code is not the most important thing anymore. So that's solved. You can have AI generate the code for you. What is really more important is how can you set the goal? How can you express yourself to define the things that you need? How can you express yourself in those skills, and perhaps your team can create the skills for you, and then you just need to know what to validate and how can you test the things that got created for you, not necessarily being like a full DAX expert or Power Query expert. I'm not saying that does not matter. It does matter. I think that fundamentals, they still matter a lot. But I think that it will happen a lot. Those like self-service users, they will be capable of just creating semantic models and reports and creating those things following the best practices, even without knowing the bells and whistles behind all the knobs behind the model development.
Rui, we'll let you go. We really appreciate your time.
I
just want to say, on behalf of everyone, thanks for everything you've been doing in Microsoft and in Power BI. You will always blow our minds when you join us. So let's give Rui a round of applause.
Thank you.